All right. Welcome to the webinar. We're about a minute early. Welcome. We're going to let some people file in since we still have a minute or so. As you are arriving, I would love to hear where you're watching from. So go to the chat. It's going to say to hosts and panelists, change that to everyone. And then go ahead and type in hello and let me know where you are. I see New Jersey. I see California, Texas, another Jersey, Philly, PA, Florida, Canada, neighbors up north, another Cali, Boston, lots of East Coast representation here. I need some more middle of the country folks, some more West Coast folks. Say hello. Hello, Florida. Hello, Verinia, looking particularly gorgeous.
Hello, thank you. Figured I'd put on a happy face.
You did great.
Thank you.
We always like to see your face.
Yeah.
It's just particularly stunning today.
Thank you.
Folks are saying hello. They're letting us know where they're watching from.
Hello,
And if you want, you're already kindly telling me where you're watching from. Type in one word about how you're feeling today. You excited, ready to do work, you anxious, you happy, you're tired. Give me a pulse on your mood.
Ooh, someone's happy.
Curious, overwhelmed, MCAT next week, kind of stressed. Yep, that's reasonable. Exhausted, stressed, tired. Okay, we'll take okay. So yeah, as you're joining, let us know where you're watching from. And if you feel like it, give us a word to let us know how you're feeling. Christopher's ready to learn. Aries overwhelmed. Lots of people wishing our MCAT testers good luck. Our friend Ryan's here sporting his Gator shirt.
Awesome.
Hello, my
Isn't
friends.
that Baby Shark?
No,
that's the Gator chomp.
That annoying chomp.
It's also the chomp for any Monster Jam fans for Mastodon, the truck Mastodon. Anyway.
It's a multi-purpose movement, is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
It is.
I saw a gymnastics routine where they added that to their routine and it was awesome. So
Nice.
I'm just a little jealous.
Yes.
Yeah, I think my school just has this thing.
Yeah.
Well, here, wait, I'm off camera. So it's this.
What's your
They know how to spell. Good job, people.
I mean, it's 4 whole letters. So
I mean,
It's not even as cool as UCF, the Golden Knights, where they spell, but there's action involved because they do UCF.
oh. Yeah, but our marching
hurt my
band can
shoulder.
write our state name in script. Cursive.
Ooh, they could dot the I.
They do with the senior
Anyway.
tuba player.
Anyway, this is boring conversation. Let's go. Let's rock and roll.
All right, let's get going. Today we are here for activities workshopping. Verinia, why do activities matter? What's the point of including them in an application?
oh, I don't know. They kind of sort of paint this picture of who you are as a candidate. So they're important. They tell your story just as much as your personal statement does. It shows your, how you chose to spend your time, how you chose to dedicate your life so far to community service, to helping others, to leading in some way, to working with patients, or just what you chose to pursue for fun, hobbies, things like that. So it's very, very important part of your application. And it's something that hopefully today we can help you all figure out how to best tell your story through these activities descriptions.
Nice. And Ryan, this is really your show, so I was just sort of moderating by default because I logged in first. Feel free to take over anytime. I wanted to ask you what you think some of the most common activity mistakes are. What happens that goes wrong in activities essays?
Selling. Ooh, look at how this prepared me to be a doctor because now I have all the skills necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I will say there are no rules. And so you will find other advisors who completely disagree with us, and that's okay. They're allowed to be wrong. At the end of the day, what I typically want to get out of an application, out of an activity section, is to understand who you are, period. Not understand who you think you need to be. Two very different things.
Okay. So our goal with these sessions is always to make it practical and applicable to your lives. So we gave you an opportunity when you signed up for the event to submit activities to us. And we've got a file of those that were submitted. We got them randomized and anonymized. So you may recognize yourself, but no one will know it's you. And it looks like we've got plenty of submissions to work through. So I don't know, Ryan, do you want me to screen share? Or do you want to screen share?
Oh, I'll screen share, I suppose.
You've got the better screen share skills.
All right. Let's rock and roll. Set to 200. All right. So friends, this are the activities that you all have submitted. We will go through them. We will read them. You will give us your thoughts. We'll give you our thoughts. We love this group environment setting because it allows you to, number one, read the submissions from other people. So you get to see how other people are writing things.
Mm-hmm.
You get to steal good ideas. You get to steal bad ideas and not use them. You get to potentially use some critical thinking and some analysis and give your own feedback and then hear our feedback and go, oh, okay, I see why they're saying what they're saying. Or, ooh, I don't know if I agree. Let me ask a question. This group environment is how we teach Application Academy. So if this works well for you, check out applicationacademy.com. We can talk more about that later, maybe, but let's rock and roll. We'll start here with this first one. All right, friends. So as you finish reading, start commenting. What do you think? What do you feel? What do you see? Seems like a job description, says Tiara. Ida, not really an anecdote. Very job description like or resume like. Too many eyes. We got some good people already rocking.
Yeah. I like how Hannah's kind of like, this is a good start. And then she's like, yeah. Where's your reflection, friend?
Yeah. What do you guys think? Vernia, Rachel?
Yeah, no, I am impressed that our viewers already know kind of what to look for.
We're doing too good of a job teaching people. Let's knock that off.
No such thing. No such thing as too good of a job. Yeah, I think it's a little too generic. I'd like to hear more about, you know, maybe you can kind of identify one mother that benefited. It seems like you probably didn't have a lot of contact though.
Yeah. So the question, right?
Yeah.
They excuse me, they labeled this medical clinical. Looking at it, I don't think it's medical clinical.
Just because it's a clinical trial doesn't mean you're doing clinical work.
Right.
Clinical is when you interact with a patient directly in a way directly related to their health. And particularly this first sentence, which is not doing this essay writer any favors, is kind of cold and removed and doesn't really talk about interacting with humans at all. So although I think you're doing good work, this research is important, would not call this clinical.
Yep. Yeah. One thing that I see here, right? Dead giveaway on resume language, spearheaded. Again, our general recommendation, get this stuff out of your application. This is not humanizing you at all. And I want to see a human. I want to see a person here. And then, right, It feels good to be liked. It feels good to be loved. So this is what I would call a very, very, very common activity description that I would see day in and day out on an application. And what we're trying to do is get you to get away from this so that I can see you. So I can see you. I can understand who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad we led with that one because this is what I would typically see day in and day out. I'm sure you guys see them too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go to this is a little long, but we can try it.
Oh yeah, activities typically have 700 character limit for AMCAS. Typically, they do. So.
Yep.
All right, just like before, when you get to the bottom, start commenting. What do you think?
Take out procedures. Yeah, it's very common again to list like, I saw this and I saw this and I saw this and I saw this. Right. Doesn't really help me know who you are.
Yeah, it's a list, and also the average admissions reader may not know what all those things are.
Yep.
You know,
and none of these words have to be capitalized.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Students love capitalizing. Oh, it's an important word. I'm going to capitalize it. That's not how English works, but that's all right.
And all we know is that you observe these things. Like that doesn't really tell us anything about them.
Yep.
Well, it is shadowing.
Right.
And one of the things we've talked about before, maybe not today, but with our advising in general, is that sometimes with shadowing, rather than trying to drill in on one position, you may just choose to list all of your shadowing experiences. And it may be the one activity where you don't really try to write an essay or a story, which isn't to say you're not allowed, again, no rules, but not much meaning or impact to be made when you're just watching. It's a passive role.
Yep.
All right. Anything else for this one?
Since you're over the limit too, I'd say just take out the 2 summers ago. That's going to be in your description anyway. I'm sorry, in the title anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, don't worry about mentioning when these things happened. It's already there.
Miranda says, what do you think of the medical mystery part?
It's funny that if they wanted to talk about something they really kind of like walked away from, like mind blown about, that might be the one thing to focus on. And what about all these random procedures? What was the medical mystery case? That's a good
I'll be honest, I glossed right over it because it was like buried right after the long list.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a story there to be told, they missed the opportunity.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, we just said there's a ton of stuff they can cut if they want to dig into that.
Yep. Yeah. In general, shadowing, very passive, typically not a ton to say about it.
Yep.
But all right, let's try here. Wound care volunteer aid. This is clinical with most meaningful. So I love this already because I see this mistake happen a lot. What mistake am I referring to? Should shadowing not be an activity? Oh, no, you have to have shadowing on your activities. Yeah.
If you want to do
splitting up characters, right?
Well,
no.
If they just didn't really use their full cut.
Yeah, they didn't use. I have literally seen students not put in a description for their most meaningful activities, their completed submitted AMCAS application.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reviewing it after they didn't get in, and I'm like, why didn't you put in a description? Oh, it's the most meaningful, so I just did the most meaningful essay. I'm like,
not optional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have up to 700 and then again up to 1325. Use it all.
Yep.
If you want to do Command Enter, that'll put all of that on one page. Oh, I guess it'll still be split though, so maybe it doesn't matter. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't understand why you do the whole Command Enter thing.
Because I don't have that nice tidy line that you have. I have a big line break.
Oh, you just need to change your view to
Yeah.
I forget which one it is. There's like a
Wait,
anyway.
You can teach me about that later. Let's let them read.
It's the print layout.
Yeah, it's the print layout.
Yeah, it's print layout.
Here, I can also change to 190 just to get it all in there.
All right, so give this a read, friends. Let us know what you're thinking.
Should we have a different story in the description than in the essay? Yes, they are not one long essay. It's not a 2025 character essay. It is a 700 character description and a 1325 why was this most meaningful to you essay. Sorry, I didn't catch that. We need to write most meaningful before the story on the application? No, it's just they're two separate boxes.
Yeah, think of it this way. For AMCAS, you have 15 activity boxes with 700 characters each. And then for 3 of those 15 activities, you can check this is most meaningful, and it's going to open a second essay still for that activity with an additional 1325.
All right. Brittany, what do we think about the description?
It could be better. It's very superficial. You have 700 characters. Think, yeah, that's a big one. I didn't even get there yet. You know, it's very superficial, barely scratches the surface of what the experience was. You have 700 characters, use them. Think big picture. What was this whole experience about? What did I do? How was this impactful? I developed grit from floor to floor. I mean, that's hard to kind of prove. Like, you're saying you did that, but how?
I developed calluses from climbing floor to floor. I don't know.
Yeah, not to like tease this person, but
no.
That's a very subjective opinion that you developed the grit from floor to floor, and that's a very telling statement. This is what we talk about. Show us how you develop that grit if you're going to mention that here.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's one of those things I refer to a lot of. Students love to develop this list of traits and characteristics and skills and qualities that they think they have to have as a doctor. And then they use their whole application to check off all of those things. Right. So they are like, oh, being a doctor, you have to have grit. Yep. So I'm going to tell you here that I have grit.
Yeah.
And again, I want to know who you are, not who you think not who you think I want you to be.
Is this activity labeled as clinical?
Do I have a book that explains essays? Yeah, it is labeled as clinical.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. What I'm noticing is this most meaningful is very much about teamwork and collaboration, which again might have been a conscious choice. They're trying to sell, look at me, I'm good at a team. Yep. But you've said this is clinical, and the patients, they get a little bit of mention, but there's many sentences where you're focused on, look at me, I was shy, I found I could help, I have problems, but I was thinking about someone else's problems, look at me taking care of my team members. None of that's clinical. That's just a job. We do stuff like that at all jobs. So I feel like you're missing an opportunity, and you can have a job that's non-clinical that's really meaningful. So that doesn't inherently make it bad, but if this is your clinical essay, where's the reflection on interacting with patients?
The sales pitch. Let's skip that one. Here's another physician shadowing one near the end. A lot of lists. Like I learned how to practice teamwork, critical thinking, communication, and reasoning skills. You guys seeing this pattern of sales pitch, sales pitch, sales pitch? Imagine the reviewer at a medical school seeing over and over and over and over, I am good at teamwork. I am good at critical thinking. I am good at reasoning skills. At the end of the day, you're all one big mishmash of people who think they have all the skills necessary to be a doctor. And I don't know who you are as a person. I don't understand who you are in terms of just your interests and passions and journey. I just know skills. I Monday, Tuesday put on a workshop, a storytelling workshop. I don't know if how many of you were there, but I very much am a firm believer in the application process is just a normal extension of human communication, which we have developed. I really hurt my shoulder earlier with the UCL.
When you did your
when I did my I'll survive. It's just a natural extension of human communication, which is storytelling for thousands of years.
Right.
So I don't know if there's not much to say about this one other than just more sales pitch stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we can find, let's do a research one. Here we go. I love Christopher pointing out, right? There's only one sentence for the person.
Yep.
Can I tell you what I first thought when I read this? I read it as if Chat GPT wrote it. Like I was thinking of this, and this sounds like an AI would have written it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really interesting the way that's the 714 character one, the description. It took me a while to realize, like, oh, this was someone's personal research experience, right? Because I was just like, I feel like I'm just reading like a badly written scientific article, you know?
Yeah.
Like this is a personal application. Yeah. I will say, just to give a bit of positive feedback, oftentimes when students talk about research, they are unable to articulate what the research would be doing out in the world. So I will give points to, you were trying to trying to measure stress and immunity. Like, you actually got that across to me. That's good. Lot of other improvement points, but that part I liked.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the most meaningful side of it?
Yeah.
Helped me develop. I learned.
Mhm.
Beneficial for me. I have had the opportunity. Look at me. I did research. No other pre-med would have had an experience like this. Sorry.
Yeah.
And they're going to treat their patients better as a result.
Yep. Again,
Mhm.
is it wrong? No, because there are no rules. And what we're trying to tell you all, and I love how we started today, because almost every single one of these is doing the same exact thing. And I hope you all see that when we're done reading these, I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you? I don't know who you are. I always talk about one of my good friends in this space. She's the dean of admissions now at Vermont Learner something or other, whatever their name is, Vermont's medical school. Dr. Layla Amiri. I had her on the podcast episode 288, and she discussed this was when she was the director of admissions at University of Illinois Chicago. The worst feedback that she would get from interviewers is, I have no idea who the student is. All I know is who they think I want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the language I use today, right? I don't know who you are. I just know who you think I want you to be.
Yeah.
I
And to
stole
kind
that
of
from her.
add on to that, I often use the analogy of like dating or making friends, because you've all had someone in your life who really wanted to be in your life, who kept pitching themselves to you. Like, look at me, we'd be great together because of da 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 da. And the more they did that, the less you were into them. Right. And then you think about whoever your current partner or bestie is, you met them, they were just themselves around you, you vibed, it was a fit. This is how humans work. Even though you're terrified and anxious, and this has been a lifelong goal, it's a real human being on the other side. Let them see who you are.
That's all.
Is it possible that you guys can show an example of how a good essay will be like? Yeah, we're hoping to.
We're trying to find one, my friends.
We're scrolling.
As a quick reminder, we had talked about the pre-med playbook. So there's the personal statement book, but also Ryan gets into activities essays in the med school application process book. So there are some good examples in there, and hopefully we'll find a good one today too.
Yeah, this looks like it was just submitted twice. It's 2:30. Yeah, looks relatively the same. Okay. So this one is marked as medical clinical Alzheimer's services volunteer. What's this?
Christopher says, if we buy Application Academy, we have access to the books as well. Yeah, so you can buy the books directly through Amazon, but if you're going to buy Academy, I'd hold off because we'll give them to you at no cost through Application Academy.
Yep. You get the PDFs immediately, and then we'll mail you the books.
Mm-hmm. Starting to see
Right.
comments come in. What else do you guys think?
Look at this, Hannah, right? We see a difference here. I think, right? Hannah's the author's joy and passion really shines through, right? You can see who this person is here,
Yeah.
right? There are lots of things that we can nitpick, but right off the bat, because
Yep.
this person isn't selling something, it's an immediate difference for you as the reader.
Agreed. Yeah, it's not, I wouldn't say it's application ready. There's some improvement, but this is human. It's sincere. I believe it. Sometimes when the stories are super dramatic or traumatic, I worry that they're there for effect, but she picked a small personal moment. It's totally, totally credible. Sometimes you just bond over, I love that celebrity too. Right? Ida
Or
says,
Betty
yay,
White.
this was mine. Good job, Ida.
Yes. So let's talk about how to improve this, right? So this is a great foundation. Bernia, looking just at the description part in the top, any thoughts of improvement here?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing I noticed, is that this reads very much like one big paragraph that you split up. You have the description, and then it continues into the most meaningful part. Double check your spelling, because Alzheimer's is spelled incorrectly, but whatever. I think I would like to see more. That's okay. That's probably just a typo. A more, I mean, I'm glad that you brought up one person to talk about this activity and how this impacted you, but kind of close that loop in that description. And then in your most meaningful, maybe talk about a different person or how you connected with them in a different way. Because this to me just reads a little bit too, like I said, it just continues into the next, into the most meaningful part. It sort of works. But there's still a little bit too much of like, oh, is this in the second part? Are we talking still about Betty?
Yeah.
Yep. So Rachel, what do you see? You're gonna say something?
Yeah, I was. So again, no rules. Typically with most meaningful, I see the 700 one as like more of a description, maybe a little story or an anecdote or an example, and then the 1300 for a deeper story. And so it's interesting to me here that Edith's flipped that. She's led with the story and then sort of uses the most meaningful more for reflection. And although it's pretty good reflection, there's some redundancy, some repetition there, and you're still short 300 characters, you've got room for a second story. And again, we say story, but sometimes it is example or anecdote. Sometimes it's just a sentence or two. But so I think that you could potentially cut a little bit of your reflection and make room for another example.
Yeah. It's interesting. What I see at the top is a lot of Betty and not a lot of Anne and not a lot of student.
Yeah.
Right. Where's the student here? Well, the student comes here. I read short fragments, right? We spent the rest of the afternoon flipping through the magazine. And then the most meaningful, a lot of it is just explaining Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Here's Alzheimer's. Here's what I like to do. Here's more of Alzheimer's. Here's what I like to do. So potentially trying to shorten that up and let me see more of you. Now, again, this is, I think, 100 times better than everything we've read already to this point, and it can get better. So great job, Ida.
Yep. Glad we found.
Do you all see that? Everyone else besides Ida, do you see that difference there? Hannah, obviously you saw it because you're like, the author's joy shines through here. All right, this is why group environment's good, is you can see all of this feedback. All right, let's do this one.
Danny says, kind of just says the same thing over and over. Yeah. A lot of telling, not a lot of showing. Yes. This reminds me of like when I was in elementary school and was first learning to do book reports. And I just had no idea what to say. Like every sentence was such a struggle. And what's interesting is I get the sense that there are some deep stories behind this. I could be wrong, I could be projecting, but through this telling, this shows me the depth of people pain, longing to feel accepted and loved. I learned to search deeper. I do believe you. I would like to hear more about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you could, all this description, you could take from whatever, 6 sentences to 1 or maybe 2, and then tell me a story. Give me an example.
And it's honestly, you have to watch your tone to how you're writing about it, because it's coming across a little patronizing, particularly the sentence, I have never struggled with mental health, but I thought it would be a great community to help. Like, you know, you're the shining, the savior coming in to help this community that you can't really relate with. That's how it's coming across.
Yep.
So just
Sophia.
be careful with that.
Hello, Sophia. I was just talking to Sophia before the workshop.
Yep.
All right. Yep.
Yep. Maybe pick one person that you connected with
in
some way and tell their story in a very short amount of space.
Yeah. Here's a different type of activity. See how we can do here.
Grand round presenter. Do we get the recording later on? Yes, of course. We will email it out. Solene says super vague. Hanan says pretty broad. Yeah.
I'm not really sure what they did.
I have no idea what they did.
Okay,
I don't know
it's
what the
not just
device
me.
is.
Yeah.
This is one of those essays that if I were doing a one-on-one with a person, I would say, I want you to go say this to yourself out loud on a Zoom and then watch it back. These words would not come out of your mouth. Right.
Yeah, I used that recently, actually in an academy session. It was an activity and it was research based, and it was just like this gobbledygook of words. And I'm like, if you went out to dinner and talked to your friends about what you just did that day, is this what you would say? And they're like, no. I'm like, then change this. Then that's ultimately a great potential thought process of, what would I say? Leaving grand rounds, going out to dinner to celebrate with people who don't know what it is that I do. What would I say to them?
Great advice.
Yeah. Who are you trying to impact? Now, it's hard, right? Because all of these are out of context of the full application. Do they have another, I'm assuming another entry that's research that talks about everything that they're doing? And this is potentially an extension. I think ideally everything can live alone. And so if you're potentially trying to use this as an extension of a different activity, this is what happens, is we're kind of lost.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. What was, there's no there. What was the device? What did you observe and learn?
Yeah.
What are you helping?
Yeah.
How is it that the thing you're helping is
Hey.
going to be impacted by different socioeconomic situations?
But Rachel, they learned how to make the most out of having very little. Isn't that
Could they
what's
use
important?
it here?
Yeah. All right. We're not going to read that one. 1,874 characters. Let's strike this one out.
700 limit.
Oh, and the most meaningful. Yeah, no.
Yeah, give that a
Um,
strike through.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Oh, your strike through's not there. Okay, that's
my
fine.
my stuff is hiding.
You
There.
can just
Here.
like, yeah.
I need to learn the keyboard shortcut for it. All right, let's try this one. Very common job for pre-meds during COVID.
Mass COVID-19 vaccination site volunteer.
It'd be fun if you did this in Massachusetts, then you'd be a mass COVID-19.
You got one.
I got one. I got
Wow.
one. That's all it takes, my friends. That's all it takes. I'm going on tour.
What does that say? It says there are opportunities to show versus tell. Yeah.
A couple of
Perfect
people are a
example.
little thrown off by the pride thing.
Mm,
Yeah, I don't mind the statement itself.
Mhm,
I took pride in,
mhm.
but what they took pride in is what
Right.
I kind of take issue with. Again, personal preference, just the whole sales process. Look, I'm a leader.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that first sentence, I think you could probably do without. It's already in the title.
Yeah.
Take that out. You're over the limit. Take that whole sentence out.
Yep.
Yeah, and less silly.
Yep. So Menor asks, is it essential to fill out all 15 activity blocks? That's something my college pre-health advisor emphasizes a lot. Nope, you don't.
I'd rather see 10 or 12 awesome ones than
Mhm.
15 where it feels like there's padding.
Yep.
And even sometimes 8. I mean, usually I would say try to have at least 10, but you know, make them real.
Yeah.
Yep.
¿A dónde se fue? Ah, okay.
¿A dónde se fue? Where did it go? All right, teaching, tutoring, teaching assistant. I love these activities
Okay.
because they usually all say the same thing.
I know. I was already looking. I'm like, do we have the one thing I'm worried is there?
I hope folks watching understand, like seeing this, you see that pre-meds all have very similar activities.
Yep.
And if you're an admissions committee member reading these and they all sound the same after a while, you're no different than anyone else.
Correct.
The way you'll connect with them is by showing who you are in these descriptions.
Yeah, that's a really important point because so often I get students who say things to me like, well, if I work with you, will you show me how to stand out? Will you show me how to be different? And, you know, Ryan, you say this all the time. Most pre-meds have a lot in common.
Mhm.
We're not trying to make you seem different or special. We're just trying to let you be you. Lots of people do clinical, lots of people do research, lots of people do tutoring. That's fine. It's how you talk about it that's going to matter.
Yep.
Finding your voice.
There it is, my friends. There it is.
Oh, that doesn't bother me as much. I'm always worried about the teaching is like medicine.
Oh no. This is what I always call out. Every student loves to put this in.
That is true.
Like, yes, that is the job of a teacher to break down concepts for students.
It is interesting though, because I think part of the reason so many students say that is so many of us have had teachers that didn't do that. I mean, my mother's a teacher. I have nothing but respect for the teaching profession. I think we've all had that professor that just like stands at the board and drones. And he's like, I don't know, I threw some crumbs at you. Did you get it?
Yeah. G Blair asks, can you include something non-medical? Do you mean in all your activity sections or in your most meaningful?
Yes and yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's yes to both.
Yes to both.
Yeah. So G Blair, going back to that question someone had asked about, do I have to have 15? No, you don't. But also, not all of your activities should be pre-med life, because personal statement is why medicine, but activities are who are you as a person. So that is going to include some non-medical stuff.
Yep. Who are you and what have you been filling your time with?
Yeah. How do you spend your time?
Yep. Yeah, I had a student a couple years ago, definitely college athlete goes in there. Intercollegiate athletics is a category on the application. I had a student a couple years ago, non-trad, reapplicant. He sent me his application. We're taking a look at it. He had like 4 things on his application. I'm like, you're like 39 years old, dude. What have you been doing all of these years? He goes, I've been doing a lot, but this is all the medical stuff that I've done. I'm like, aha, there's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us how you spend your time.
Yep. Okay.
Danielle says, can you give a good example of how to relay skills as a teacher? I'm not sure I can, Danielle, because I don't really think you need to talk about skills.
Nope.
I want to know what teaching meant to you and how it impacted you.
Yep.
I think any version of talking about skills is just kind of a waste of space, because the admissions committee reader knows what skills you picked up as a teacher. That's not going to be particularly interesting to them.
Yep. Show me how you impacted a student. Show me how they impacted you as a person, not as a future doctor.
And as you have been talking, I was reading through the most meaningful. It's just basically the same thing, kind of repetitive.
Yeah.
Another person that takes pride in themselves. Yeah. So again, this isn't telling me why this was meaningful to you, other than you have these skills that you're really proud of.
Yep. Let me see if while we look at the next one, I'll pull up my application process book, which has examples in there. We can maybe show some of those. How about this one?
Yes, hobbies. Someone asked, would you put hobbies? Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is the activity descriptions that I read, the hobbies tend to be the best well-written. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's because there's less
well.
pressure. So they just let their personality shine through.
Yeah. So obviously, you can't write about every activity being a fun and exciting thing. But that's where your personality comes through. And so lean on that. But yes, absolutely. Artistic endeavors is one of the categories, hobbies, things like that.
So yeah, some people commenting that they just really didn't understand how much non-medical activities were not just allowed, but acceptable. So that's great. I'm glad we're helping you understand that. And then, classification matters less. So Sophia asks about, as a board member of a club, is that extracurricular clubs or is it leadership? It doesn't matter. Make a case for it. Make sure your essay matches, right? So like, if you're gonna, if you're going to call it leadership, then don't talk about all the times that you were being led by someone else, right? But many activities could be classified more than one way. It's subjective. There's no rules. Just make sure that whatever you're picking for the category is in line with the essay that you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
This one seems very I-focused to me. It's all about me,
Mm-hmm.
what I did, how I helped. but I'm not really seeing the impact as much on the
Mhm.
person you were working with Eva.
Yep.
Mhm.
Reflection. Not really any reflection
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a good story. There's no reflection.
Yeah. That's it.
So I would cut some of this story, some of these I statements.
Mhm.
And I mean, you might use some I statements in reflection, but cut some of the I story statements. And what did it mean to you? How did it impact you? I mean, you say you were sad to leave, you were glad to help. There's a start of a reflection there.
Yep.
Can you dig a little deeper?
This is one of my biggest things I like to call out. Punctuation almost always goes inside the quotation marks.
Yeah.
Tai Chi instructor. It's a little long. It's 1100. We're gonna skip that one because it's too long. Most meaningful. That's all broken up. All right, let's go find some other ones. Here's another research one. And he asks if activity also serves as a seed in the personal statement. It's interesting. I would question how that would happen. Should it be one of the 3 most meaningful activities? Doesn't have to be. No. I meant watering.
She meant
event.
watering event. Yeah.
Okay, that's probably
That
a
makes
little
more
more
sense.
logical based on our setup. Yeah. No, it doesn't have to be a most meaningful. Most meaningful, just I don't think we've said this yet. Most meaningful on AMCAS and TMDSAS, ACOMAS doesn't have most meaningful. Most meaningful is most meaningful to you as a person, not most meaningful to you as a pre-med, a future doctor, etc.
Yeah. It is common to see one most meaningful be clinical, but the other 2, I mean, it might be Tai Chi. It might be journalism.
A hobby can be a most meaningful.
Definitely.
Yep. All right, what do you guys see here?
I see some science speak that made me zone out and get bored because I didn't know what it meant. You know, I'm a relatively bright person. I'm decently educated. I'm not ashamed of my ignorance. You cannot assume that the AdCom reader has an MD or a PhD in science. Do I know what a lipid is? Yes. But once you got into cardiomyopathy, I was like, meh. Like, just if you said it's peds, if you were talking to a child, how would you describe it? Explain it at a 5th grade level or a 9th grade level.
Yep.
And
What's the reflection?
Yeah.
I like science.
And you sound like you're complaining a little bit. This wet lab demanded a lot of my time. So I quickly learned how to prioritize and manage my schedule so that I could balance research.
Oh, I don't see that as complaining. I see that as selling. Ooh, look at me. I can do it all because I know med school is going to require that of me.
Good point.
Yeah.
And also, that's not specific to that activity. I mean, lots of activities demand a lot of time. Lots of activities require you to prioritize and manage. You don't need to tell us that. You can just list a bunch of activities and we'll see how busy you are.
Yeah.
And if you did a bunch of activities and still got good grades and an MCAT, we'll know. You figured it out.
Yep.
You managed it all.
Yeah. So Allie asks again these questions about rules. Like, do you have to use all 3 most meaningfuls? No. If you only have 2 that you're like, yeah, these are the 2 most meaningful to me, all these other ones, I'd be lying if I marked it as most meaningful, and I don't really have much to say in 1,325 characters on top of the 700 that I'm already writing, readers will see right through that. So don't waste their time.
Yes.
Is there an unspoken limit for personal, non-medical activities?
First, I thought they meant character limit, but I think they mean like how many activities should be med versus non-med. That's, I think, what they're asking.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I typically say don't get carried away with hobbies because then it just looks like you're padding your application.
Yeah.
Maybe 2, but one is good. But yeah, in terms of like, I never count like, ooh, why do you have 6 non-clinical and 4 clinical? And as long as you have clinical experience to show that you want to be a doctor, that shows that you spend time being around patients and in a clinical setting or non-clinical setting, but around patients. And you have shadowing that shows that you like being around doctors and you're exploring things consistently. I don't care what the rest of your stuff is. Again, I'm excited to see variety, because then you're showing me that you're passionate and doing things as a person and not just checking boxes for med school. I'm not sure what Samuel's asking here. Can multiple most meaningful activities come from the same activity, i.e. scribing at an emergency department? Samuel, explain that a little more. Like, are you like two different scribing jobs, and so you put two activities and they're both most meaningful? And can you have two?
Jasmine says, I have the same question, but we're not sure we understand the question.
Yeah. Here we go. Artistic endeavors. This is different. Let's see. And you have two meaningful experiences from one single activity. Again, I'm still not
I think he's saying, like, let's say I was a scribe at Columbus Children's. Could I have that listed twice so that I can write two different most meaningful essays about it?
But he's saying one single activity, so I'm assuming he's only... Yeah, when I hear one activity, I'm thinking one activity on the application, not the
I don't
same
think that's what he's asking.
experience.
Yeah, Samuel, try again.
We're speaking different languages. Can you use two activity spots for the same activity, for the same experience? Is that what you're asking, Samuel? If that's what you're asking, no, don't do that.
Yeah. Stephanie asks, can being a caretaker for my grandmother, should that list as an activity? If that's a substantial way that you spent your time, yes. And I don't care that you're a 32-year-old non-trad reapplicant. That's not changing my answer. Taking care of family members can be clinical. We also don't think it should be your only clinical, because that's not like real life physician work, right? So absolutely that counts. And we hope you also are getting clinical outside of the family.
Great. She does hospice and works as a scribe.
Great.
Do it. All right. What do we think about this artistic endeavor?
Students like the story told.
Axa says it's more about the team and less about the student. I don't know.
Axa Saji. Weren't you one of our winners, Axa? Woohoo! She was one of our 300th episode MCAT podcast winners.
Nice.
Oh,
10-pack of blueprint MCAT exams and a year of Mapped Pro.
Wow. That's been 6 years. Right, roughly. You've been doing MCAT podcast roughly once a week.
2015 we started, yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think so.
I've known you a long time, Ryan.
Too long. I mean,
You're stuck with me now.
I don't know. This one is a lot. There's a lot of detail about the dancing, and I'm not really as interested in that as I am in how, why was this life-changing for this person?
Yeah.
There's a lot of story, a lot of scene setting.
Yeah. Like this is a lot of
I
just
don't know.
basic information. Like
Mhm.
here's what it's like to be in the opera.
Yeah.
Great. I want to know, like, what's your favorite song? What was your favorite performance? What was it like to be on stage in front of people?
Isabel hit it right on the nose. There's a lot of fluff, but it didn't really go anywhere.
Mhm.
The one sentence that I thought finally started to show a little reflection is the very last at the bottom. When I see the emotion, I hear the sorry, no, this is why I perform, to make people feel something through music.
Mhm. More of that.
More of that.
Yep.
That one
Yeah.
sentence.
And so
every
the most
time.
meaningful here is better, right? Because it is getting into more the
Mhm.
emotion of things.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or as
These
Sophia said,
these
what does sorry.
yeah, go ahead. What does music
No,
do for you?
yeah, what does music do for you?
Yep. This little sentence I highlighted, right? This is very common for students to put, ooh, dedication and perfection and
Yeah.
okay. But good. One of the better ones we've seen today.
Yeah.
The description needs some work because it's just a lot
Yeah.
of basic.
Yeah.
Why don't we open up some Q&A? We've read a bunch. There's only a couple left that we haven't seen. As a lot of people submitted more stuff. Do you guys want to? You guys have tons of questions. You want to open it up to some Q&A? We can bring you on. You can ask some questions. Do you want to keep reading some more examples? The hands are starting to go up.
All right.
That last one you're showing right now has no description. This goes back to what we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Exactly. Look at
Make
that.
sure you have a description there. Mhm.
Yep. Okay. Let's open up some Q&A, answer some questions, raise your hand. Should we give away an application academy to someone
I was
who's
just
on the
thinking
call with
that.
us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just as a reminder, if you enjoy this kind of group work and questions, applicationacademy.com is where you can check out our group advising. As far as I know, we're the only ones doing something like this. No, actually, I could think of one other person. Yeah, so most advising is one-on-one, but group is definitely going to be more economical. And as you've hopefully learned from today, in some ways more powerful, right? One-on-one attention is great, but look at all these examples that you get to see. Some were good, some needed love. It just gives you a lot more exposure. So if you like this kind of format, check out Application Academy. I think it's on sale right now. I saw a red strike through on the web. So normally $5.99, it's $4.99. We do also have a special discount for people who are on a fee assistance program. So you can check that out in the FAQ for those details. And then, yeah, we're going to give one away today, I think.
Yeah. All right, Isabel.
Hi.
Hello. What's your question?
So when you were picking apart these activity sections and we're seeing students, say the classic things of like, I put hours of dedication or hours of time into this. I learned how to articulate my ideas well. I learned how to lead effectively, kind of those key things that you already assume a physician has. Is it safe to say that we would stray away from including those things at all because the admissions committee would already assume that if you're applying, you display those traits?
I don't think so. I don't think you stay away. What I think we're saying is stay away from just listing those things like we saw all of these students doing. Ooh, look at me, I have communication skills. Look at me, I have this. If you do this properly, then what you'll see is you can read into those things with how the student is writing their stories and their descriptions and stuff.
Okay, so touch on those, but kind of the classic show, don't tell.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you go to
Thank
the
you.
WMC core competencies, so you can Google AAMC core competencies, there are certain qualities that med schools are looking for. And this is something Courtney Lewis, who's one of our fellow advisors, talks a lot about. People are thinking about going to med school like it's school, but by med 3, you're spending 80 hours a week in the hospital. You're an employee with a long, hard drudge job. So yes, those competencies matter, but articulating that you have them is honestly not very believable. Ryan could sit there and tell you, hey, I can be pretty blunt, and you probably believe him. But as soon as you see him give feedback on an essay, you know he's blunt. Right? That's what we're saying. Just don't try to describe your personality. Just let it shine through.
Brittany, it looks like you're formulating another thought.
I was sorry. I was just thinking that often what happens with those I statements, like I did this and I learned this, is that you're talking from your perspective, and you, that subjectiveness, you know, someone else can have a different interpretation of that, right? So you telling me that you have these skills isn't showing me that you have them. I'm supposed to take your word on it. You know what I mean? So really how you show it is talk to me, you know, describe how you work with a patient. You had a, you know, confused patient with Alzheimer's or dementia, and you sat with them and you looked through a magazine together. That shows me that you took the time to sit down and calm them down, as opposed to telling me, oh, I showed empathy and I connected with them. So that's what we're talking about.
Yep.
All right.
Deanna.
Thanks, Ryan, for calling me out. Sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Deanna.
Thanks. I had a question about specifically the hobbies section, or including a hobby. I have a hobby that I'm not really sure how I would, or I'm sorry, does it have to be verifiable?
Nope.
Okay. I was under the impression that it did, so I
What do
learned
you mean?
I learned how to coupon for and
Show me your bank account.
yeah, so I'm like, do I
No.
include pictures?
Everything in the activities is an honor system. So go read the handbook's fine print just to be sure you've got the latest and greatest. But to the best of my memory, this is AMCAS. Nothing against Tacomas of Texas. I just tend to have the AMCAS handbook a little better memorized. It says something along the lines of list a supervisor if you can. If you can't list a supervisor, list someone else who can vouch for you. If the only person you can list is yourself, that's fine. Just be prepared to answer why in case we ask.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, it's very common for students to list themselves for some activities.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
I guess I had a question about how to approach wet lab descriptions. I don't think I have good anecdotes because I just worked with yeast the entire time, so I'm not really sure what about it.
I like yeast. Yeast is my friend. Yeah, it's hard when there's not much to talk about there. At the end of the day, again, you need to think about impact. Not every, and I get thrown under the bus from advisors sometimes because students will take my anecdote and storytelling advice too far. Not every activity needs an anecdote. Not every activity deserves an anecdote. And so there are some, like your wet lab research where you're playing with yeast, that not going to have a story where you're talking to little Johnny the yeast molecule or whatever. Like, it's just not going to happen. And so talk about impact, talk about what you're hoping the research that you're doing does, how it's potentially going to impact patients in the future, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And if it doesn't, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And if it doesn't really impact patients, I don't know if it did.
It doesn't have to impact patients directly.
I mean, why are you doing the research? Just like give us a 20-second description. Why are you studying yeast?
Motor proteins and seeing if it could do mitotic rescue.
To do what? Sorry.
Mitotic rescue. It was we were replacing motor proteins from a yeast, from a thermophilum to a yeast.
Explain it like we're 3-year-olds.
Yeah. Oh, I don't. I was replacing a motor protein from one species.
What's a motor protein?
Gosh, I don't know.
It's a hard skill to dumbify science language.
Okay. I think I will have to think about it to.
Yeah.
Okay, but thank you. That made a lot of sense.
Sure.
Awesome. All right. Sophia, long time no talk.
Hello. I typed this question into the chat, but like I know there's like a flood of them. It came up because someone else was asking about talking about the same thing in their personal statement, and it something being a watering event and a most meaningful activity. And I was under the impression that you like shouldn't repeat yourself anywhere in the application. So I was wondering your opinion on talking about like mentioning something in a personal statement and then elaborating it on it, adding the hours, the contacts, whatever for the activity, or do you not repeat yourself?
Rachel, Brittany.
Okay. I was like, what's going on with
I
Ryan's
thought he was
face?
frozen. Yeah,
Me
that's-
too. Yeah, Sophia, I think if you can avoid repeating yourself in the primary, it's better.
Mhm. Okay.
Because you have limited characters to show yourself. And if the activity was that meaningful, my hope is you can pull multiple stories from it. So like if you were a scribe and you've got a scribing story in your personal statement, because that's one of your key watering events, that's great. But then when you're doing the most meaningful, my question would be, does it need to be the same story? Or do you have another scribing story you can share? And even if it is the same story, could you present it in a new angle with new details and new reflections, right? Because what I wouldn't want is like something close to a copy paste or something that's just like a paraphrasing. And again, not that it's not allowed, there are very few rules here, but you only get the 5,300 character personal statement and the 15 activities to impress these folks on paper. And, you know, we're often in there kind of like giving you guys like shredding in detail, but just to back up for a minute, the whole big picture idea of the personal application is most of you are completely qualified to enter med school on paper, right? You've already got the grades, the scores, the experiences. What you're trying to do now in the application is present your humanity so they can get to know you as a person and imagine you as part of their medical school cohort, imagine you as a physician. So just on those grounds, I'm saying, if you can avoid repeating, I think it's better because you want to give them as many opportunities as possible to think, oh, that's so cool. I can't wait to meet her in person and talk to her about that.
Okay. Thank you. That helps a lot. I'm sorry. I thought if I mentioned something in my personal statement, it couldn't be an activity on the activities.
Oh, no.
Now I
It's a
understand that.
very, very, very common misconception. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that's just comes out of the ether and it's so common every student thinks about it, or if there's stuff online that you guys are reading about that. But no, because very often, at least how we describe writing a personal statement, your watering events are almost always going to be activities that are going to go into your activities section. You just talk about them differently in your personal statement because it's why medicine, and then your activity is it's here's who I am.
Perfect. Thank you. That helps a lot. And sorry, Rachel, you mentioned primary specifically. So if they were to ask me, you know, I'm guessing a secondary question that's common is like, what's an obstacle you've overcome? If I've mentioned you know, the biggest obstacle in my primary, I can still talk about it in the secondary.
I think you can if you need to, because I don't want a good secondary answer to get ruined because it was mentioned in the primary. When the med schools are writing these secondary questions, they're doing it without reference to your possible primary answers. And also, one, there's no guarantee that your secondary reader read your primary, right? Two, even if they did, they read 600 other applications this week. Do they remember? Maybe.
Okay.
Unless they specifically state, you know, whatever it is.
Thank you.
Tell us something different from your personal statement. I forget how it's phrased.
Sometimes they'll say, tell us a meaningful experience you haven't shared already. Obviously, then.
Thank you.
Pick a new one.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Who's up? Caitlin, I think.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Hold on, I'm getting there.
Just trying to help her call herself to attention.
Well,
She might
no,
want
because
that
I
heads
have to allow her to talk first.
Okay.
And Zoom has a very weird bug where you go and highlight over the buttons and then they disappear, and then you got to move your mouse around a little bit to get them back. And anyway, hello, Caitlin.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Two questions, if that's okay. The first is, so to give you a little bit of background, I'm a non-traditional student applying after a post-bac. I've worked in corporate communications for the last 12 years. And so as I've been drafting my activities for kind of my job history, I initially had, so I've been with the same company for the last 12 years. And in that time, I started as an admin assistant. I currently am in a vice president role. And so I had started putting each position at the company as a separate activity. However, I do want to talk about this as a most meaningful, and I'm finding that it's easier to do my most meaningful section if I talk about it as one collective experience. Is that okay to do a 12-year career as one activity entry and not address the various positions?
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
not a resume.
Yeah. It's
Exactly.
not a
I know
resume.
it started looking that way, and yeah.
Yeah. It's very common for military vets, very common for people like yourself who are non-trads, who are in careers for a while, very common for traditional students who started as a member of a pre-med org and then became a treasurer and then became a vice president and then they were a president. The activity section does not have to capture every single thing that you've done in your past. It just has to show what you've been spending your time with in general, kind of filling it out, but not every, like, on Tuesday, October 3rd, I crossed the street to help a grandma. I remember that day. Like, you don't have to get that specific.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
At most, you might want to say, I started out as an admin and slowly progressed to whatever other role you ended up in.
Okay, great. That's kind of how I have it worded at the moment. Perfect. And then my second question, this may be along the lines of what Samuel was asking, but a second activity. So I am a research associate at a hospital. But within that role, so I've been in the position for 2 years, and within that role, I've worked on very different activities. So, there are studies that I've worked on that are very much research and, retrospective chart review under a toxicologist, or there are very clinical studies or projects that I've worked on where I'm approaching patients, I'm enrolling them, I am interacting with them in terms of like hooking them up to various equipment. So can I list, even though my title is the same and the institution is the same, can I list each of those studies out separately as an activity?
There are no rules.
Okay.
I was like, Ryan's mouth wasn't moving, and then I realized you recorded it. Yeah, I mean, I think the
There
question
are
to
no
ask here,
rules.
Caitlin, is do you have stories to tell? Right? Like,
Do you have impact to show, stories to tell?
Someone had asked before about, well, I'm applying Texas, I only have 300 characters. Am I gonna have to tell a story every time? And the reality is, no, you're not gonna be able to. Texas is really different. When you only have 300 characters, it's going to be easy to say, I'm going to take this 12-year thing and parse it out into 5 jobs. I'm going to list every different officer I had at the club. You might as well, right? Because it's unlimited and you have limited space per thing. But with what you're describing, if you want to break it out, if that's meaningful to you, and I don't mean most meaningful, I just mean meaningful, that's fine. There are no rules. My question is, do you actually have 700 characters worth of stuff to share and reflect on for each different role? And maybe you do. But I think it's less about whether or not it's allowed. It's more about, is that the best use of your space? And only you know, because only you have lived your life. Whoa.
Okay, great. Thank you. As my package gets delivered.
Gotcha. I was like, am I in trouble? Why are you buzzing me?
Julia Jackman. That's a superhero name if I've ever heard one.
Thank you. I was curious if there's a typical protocol for listing out publications, posters, and stuff like that, because I have multiple that I want to share, and I don't want to put them as individual entries. But yeah, is there a typical way to do that?
No, students always, yeah, students always want to put like the full URL to all of their abstracts or publications and stuff, and that nothing is clickable in the application, right? These are just all plain text entries. I think as long as you put the title, maybe the journal that it was accepted in. Again, there are no rules to this, so do whatever you think will fit.
Julia very sneakily avoided the rule thing by going, what's the typical way? But yeah, Julia, you're not going to be able to fit it all. That's a common
No.
complaint is, oh no, I might have to abbreviate. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. Lovely. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Before we wrap up here, what should we do to pick a winner for Application Academy?
Did someone pick a number? Like, think of a number and then whoever gets closest.
Okay.
Should we do a pop quiz? But see, that's kind of hard because
MCAT question. Ooh,
MCAT question.
Miranda.
Should we do numbers? Number the fairest?
I don't know what number the fairest means.
No, is our
Yeah.
picking a number
Are
the
numbers
fairest?
the
Oh.
most fair way? Yes.
Okay.
That's the fairest way.
So I'm gonna type a number here to the host and panelists.
Okay.
So
That's really
it's
interesting.
fair and balanced. So
Oh wait, did you type it? Oh yeah. See it.
yeah, you see it there? All right.
Yes.
The first person to pick the number between 1 and 100,
my
not
God.
528,
Yeah.
1 and 100. Oh, here we go.
Oh my gosh.
oh, wait, did I see it? Did I see it?
Oh my
no.
gosh. No. Ooh. No.
I'm just scrolling through here.
Yeah, if once you start scrolling, it slows down so you can
Yeah.
start to see the numbers.
Some folks are very close. So close.
Missed it by that much.
Ooh, so close.
I picked a good number.
Yeah.
You did. It's not. Never mind. I was gonna like start analyzing the number, but I'm gonna stop.
Ooh, did I? Nope.
No, I don't see you.
Guys, you're so close.
Yeah, I don't know what to do here.
We
I mean,
we just
someone's
wait.
gonna start just typing 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, maybe I don't know if maybe this wasn't the best way.
No, it's perfect. I just picked a really good number.
Come on.
So many people are picking the same numbers over and over
Oh,
again.
I found him.
Did you find one?
Yes. Should
All
I
right.
say it?
Yeah.
Hold
I
on.
don't
Wait,
see it. Can you type it in the chat so we can
type it in the
verify?
chat. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I could do that.
so make
Okay.
sure it's the first one.
Yeah, I don't. That's what I wanted to check too.
All right, everyone, stop entering.
Yeah, give us a second to analyze here.
Let us catch up.
Thumbs up.
Wow, that was pretty gnarly. I still don't see it.
No.
Well, can we
Keeps-
control F?
Do you want timestamp? Would that help?
Yeah, that might help.
uh,
Well, it won't make much difference because they're all.
Well, at least it gives you a window to.
Okay,
I'm still scrolling up to see if I see it again.
I see that same student typed other numbers. Wow, this was crazy. Every time I do this same thing, it usually happens very quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you picked a good
I'm
one.
gonna export this chat. That might be easier.
Yeah, I scrolled through. I didn't see anyone else.
Okay, yeah, I see the one you see. All right.
Yeah.
Yasser. Yasser wins. Wow.
Yasser.
63 was the number. I'm so tense right now. Oh, that was hard. 63. That was the number.
Yeah, and I did just do a control F in the save meeting chat. He was not only the first, but the only.
The only one.
Wow.
Good job.
That's a first.
The
Great
weird
job.
hint I wanted to give you guys, this is so strange, is like numbers have like shape and feeling to me. I was like, it's not prime, but it feels prime.
Okay.
Oh, I'm glad one person was like, yeah, 63. It's still, I know, 21, I know. 7,
Yes.
9, I know.
Yes,
It just still feels prime.
Yes, sir. Email us, academy@medicalschoolhq.net. We'll get you hooked up. For everyone else, Academy, applicationacademy.com. Again, FAP, we have it available. It's $100 off right now. It's awesome. We are going to close enrollment here probably in the next several weeks. So if you want to get going with Application Academy, start now. Tanim.
Oh, is this for the questions?
Yeah.
Hi. So my question was I was involved in an experience that basically like what we did was we formulated these presentations from scratch and then had them approved by physicians. So normally it would be regarding like a health or wellness topic and disease prevention. So I was wondering if that would be classified as a volunteer medical clinical.
Not clinical.
Well, I mean, like we would present these presentations to like, you know, underserved communities. It wouldn't be volunteer medical clinical, no?
No, if anything, it's education, health education maybe, but not clinical.
Yeah, I probably just listed as community service, not
Mhm.
medical clinical. Medical clinical, and this is very confusing for students. Medical clinical, now we could say there are no rules, and so Dr. Gray, you don't know what you're talking about. Medical clinical, the expectation is that it's patient interaction. You are interacting with patients in some sort of clinical environment. You're an EMT, you're a CNA, you're a phlebotomist, you're an ER tech, you're a scrub tech, like you're a hospice volunteer where you're spending quality time less in a like I'm doing something to the patient, but just being with the patient. Like you're a sitter at a hospital. Those are clinical experiences. Education is not, it's not clinical experience because you're not really doing anything with the patient. You're teaching them stuff. Yes. Is the topic that you're covering medicine and health and all of that? Yes, 1000%. And for the purposes of the application, it's not considered clinical experience.
Okay, I'm really glad I asked. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Right. I give this example all the time because it's super hyperbolic and it's 1000% true. I had this happen. A student didn't get into med school, sent me their application. This was many years ago. I looked at their application. He had an activity on his application that was marked medical clinical, paid employment medical clinical. I go to the experience name, environmental engineer. He was a janitor at the hospital. And his thought process, which a lot of you have, was I'm in a hospital, therefore it's clinical.
Or in this case, the person was like, oh, but it was underserved people. Yeah, clinical doesn't always mean volunteer. There's a difference between community service, which community service usually means finding someone in the population who has fewer advantages than you and helping them, right?
Yep.
Versus unpaid work, which you could be doing unpaid work at a volunteer, do a volunteer job at a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. And I mean, that doesn't have to be cosmetic. That can be important surgical procedures, but those people aren't poor.
Yeah.
Clinical and volunteer, not the same.
Yeah. Manor asks a question with Application Academy. Do we get personalized feedback? You do in a group environment, right? So Application Academy works basically exactly the same as it worked today. The difference is the classes are usually much, much smaller. So classes are usually 15, maybe 20 people.
Speaking of which, I'm going to hop off because I'm teaching Academy in 2 minutes.
Okay.
I know if Ryan and Vernia can stay. I have a different login, so it should be okay for me to go do that class and you guys do what you're doing.
Fingers
so
crossed.
I'm going to go teach Academy now. Some people are going to work on the watering statements with
Hi,
me.
Rachel. Yeah.
Sign up for Academy. I might see you.
Yeah, I have another minute I can stay. We'll answer a couple more questions. Yes, sir. Our winner today. I think that was you, unless there's two yeses here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Could you also repeat the email address so I could, contact you about this winning situation?
Academy, like Application Academy at medicalschoolhq.net.
Okay. Academy at medicalschool.net.
HQ.net.
All right.
You want to type that in the chat, Vernia?
Oh,
Look
sure.
at
I
that.
just see it.
Already on it.
Yeah.
All
Nice.
right.
Perfect.
So I also had a question.
Okay.
In terms of activities.
Yeah.
So I have a business that I have been running for the past 5 years.
Cool.
And I'm not sure how could I, talk about it within the activities portion and what would be the best case for me to just put it as.
Like the category?
Yeah, just the category, and like, because I could talk about it like from different perspectives. Like it has like multiple ventures, has multiple like, you know, scenarios, but
Right.
what would be
But
the best?
It's your employment, right?
What does that mean?
It's your job.
Yeah, we could say that.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
Paid employment,
That's it.
non-medical,
Mhm.
clinical, I'm assuming.
That's
So that's
it.
how you
Yeah.
how you would categorize it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, makes sense.
Easy peasy. Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys in general, not you, yes, or most of you overthink everything. So I don't have, I wish I had my stickers, my
But the
overthinking
thing is,
pre-med club,
yeah,
the
yeah.
OPC.
But I'm not working anymore. It's just I have the
Doesn't
business.
matter.
That's
you know?
fine.
It doesn't matter. It's your business.
Okay.
It was your venture, your employment at the time.
Okay.
And then you just talk
Thank you.
about what it was and how it impacted you.
Yeah.
That's all.
If you're not comfortable categorizing it that, you can always categorize it as other.
Okay.
Again, there's no rules that nobody's going to go, well, why did you do that? Why did you categorize it as that? Unless you categorize it something completely like, again, you categorize being a janitor as medical clinical experience.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So one more question and then we can hop off here.
Hi there.
Alnor, hello.
So my question was, during undergrad, I used to be a tutor for like algebra, organic chemistry, general chem. So does that come in as different, or is it just one activity?
Just one.
Just one activity.
Yeah, yeah. And if you want, you can mention the subjects that you tutored, but you don't have to. It's just one activity.
Got it. And sorry, one more question. Similar to that, I used to work at a learning center where the first year I was a tutor, but the next 4 years I was working as a manager. So would that be again two different, or comes as one?
There are no rules.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potentially, right? One, you could mark as teaching, tutoring, TA, as a category, and then you can have leadership potentially as the other category if you wanted to split them. Or it potentially sounds like you're going to have a lot of tutoring. You could just have one activity, mark it as leadership, and then in the first line, after working at this place for a year as a tutor, I became the manager, and then go from there.
That's it.
Got it. And then like right now I'm a high school teacher. So
Cool.
that comes in as a leadership or a teaching?
I would put that paid employment, non-medical clinical.
Got it.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so my friends, it is time to go. Again, applicationacademy.com. We are closing the doors here in the next few weeks so that we can focus on helping the students that are in there get into medical school. If you enjoy this group environment setting, 10 plus sessions a week, we're bringing on at least 3 TAs for even more sessions. So personalized feedback, yes. One-on-one feedback, no. So come hang out with us. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Verinia,
Bye.
it's been a pleasure. Goodbye.
Likewise. Bye.